Alright, what is up YouTubes? And Merry Christmas Eve to you if you're watching this video on December 24th. But I just want to touch on the Kaldheim spoilers because we've seen some pretty cool cards starting to be spoiled, even though the set isn't going to officially start being spoiled until the new year. But Wizards, of course, has some fun stuff to show us and had a pretty cool card to show us for Christmas Eve. Let's just run through what we've already seen thus far. So we know for sure sagas are coming back. And that's because, in case you didn't know this, the word saga is a word. Is it a Nordic word, or is it just related to Norse mythology? But like a saga would be a telling of events or historical events, epic tales. So like the fact that sagas are appearing in a Norse mythology focused set is like the most on flavor thing you could hope for these kinds of cards. We're also seeing the cycle of the modal lands being spoiled, and I gotta say, I think the black green one, or the, where was it, the blue, no, that wasn't it. Yeah, this one. The blue-white one is probably my favorite because this looks like the most Jackson-esque. If you've been to Yellowstone in the last few years, or since, what, like the last wildfire they had in the 90s, late 80s? Anyway, you can see fields of just burned trees still to this day. And this kind of looks like the Snake River with the Tetons, even though it's not, not quite as epic as the Teton Mountains. Point is, I personally relate to these landscapes the most with where I'm currently located. And then we got Pyre of Heroes, and it's like a birthing pod-esque card. Limiting factor though is it's tribal. So basically any tribal matters type commander decks will probably be happy to play this card. Pay 2, sack a creature, search your library for a creature card that saves that shares that creature type, +1. So you kind of get to like ramp up a little bit. You only do it as a sorcery. Sad day, but it just seems like a really fun card. This seems like a card I'm gonna be excited to play with come the set's release. Now we start to get to see what the main creature focuses are, and I think we already have been told what the color combos are for the creature types, but there's 5 primary creature types. So white black is angels, black green is elves, blue red is giants, and then red white is dwarves. I think that's all 5. I hope. If not, I'm sure I'll mention it at some point. But we're also starting to see some really good cards in and outside of limited. Like here we're seeing, hey, uncommon angel spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. So this is going to be great for that black-white angels deck because they all cost a ton less. We're seeing the dwarf cleric thing here. When it becomes tapped, if it's enchanted or equipped, you create a 2/1 red dwarf berserker creature token. So the other thing you need to be mindful of is with the set being focused on Norse mythology, they've tailored something obviously to fit magic. So instead of them having Valkyries like they have in Norse mythology, they're just keeping them as angels. Instead of them having Vikings, they're just warriors or berserkers, or in our case, we're getting dwarf berserker tokens. So they're, clear lines, but not quite like verbatim word for word matching the mythology. I was also surprised to learn that red blue will be giant. It just didn't hit me as immediate giant color combo focus, but I actually really am excited for it to be like big monstrous creatures like an 8/8 giant wizard that does fun and exciting things. Yeah, but we're getting like red white's probably going to have an equipment sub theme or just synergies going on there. Black white angels, death, rebirth, elves being green and black has been a pretty traditional color pairing for them. Yeah, either way, exciting stuff. Absorb Identity, probably the creepiest artwork in the set. We're already getting to see. I kind of want to see how this card looks in foil. Very curious about it. A return target creature card to its owner's hand. Then you may have your shapeshifters you control become copies of that creature until end of turn. So another thing that I learned is that shapeshifting is rather common in Norse mythology. Like Loki being a shapeshifter in the Marvel Universe is not just by happenstance. Like that's what fits the myths. There you go. Yeah, Giant's Grasp, just the derpiest looking bear. That's a big old hand. You gotta understand how big that hand is to pick up a grizzly bear like that. Massive. Elderfang Ritualist, when it dies, return another elf card from your graveyard to your hand. Classic black stuff happening. A little bit of mill. I don't know if there's going to be a mill sub-theme. I can't imagine it's that good. Like angels, I don't take as being a huge mill thing. Thorn Mantle Striker is going to be a fantastic limited card. When it ETBs, you get to choose one. Basically, remove target creature, or we're going to have some new planeswalkers showing up in the set too, but I don't imagine you're going to do the remove X permanent counters. You're probably just going to give a creature -X/-X. Beater decks, hey, there's one of these equipments that we get to slap on our elves, or our elves, on our dwarves. Fire Giant's Fury, I'm really curious how this will play in limited. Target giant you control gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Then whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile that many cards. You can play them until your next step. So it's kind of a nice get in for damage, because giants are probably going to be huge creatures, so giving them trample is a big deal. And then giving you access to more gas is a big deal. And you can use that gas to either find or play stuff to crew your vehicles. It makes sense. There's going to be a treasure sub-theme, like Norse Mythology, inspired even J.R.R. Tolkien. And that kind of helped with movies like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, and like Smaug, and the whole treasure and dragon being hoarding, greed, all that good stuff. That's tied to Norse mythology, as far as I know. We're gonna go with that. Elven Ambush, creating a lot of elf warrior tokens. I love tokens, so I'm a big fan of this. Blade Walker Ritualist is a changeling. I really like changeling. It helps a lot with my Reaper King deck, so I'm curious how many changelings, what kind of changelings we get. Rampage of Valkyries, it seems really good for limited, but for 5 mana, create a 4/4 flying vigilant creature, like that's great. And then the fact that it kind of protects your stuff, or at least has your opponent have to trade a creature away when they remove your creatures. Huge value in limited. Magda, Brazen Outlaw. Big fan of this card. Really hoping I can get the alternate art. I'm not a fan of this art. Just looks uncomfortable riding this dragon. This one looks like a badass. Other dwarves you control get +1/+0. Whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped. So any dwarf attacking, crewing a vehicle, whatever, gets you treasures. Then you sack 5 treasures and search your library for an artifact or dragon card and put it onto the battlefield. What? That's so much. That's stupid amounts of value. Realm Walker. This is the buy box promo, or this is, we're gonna get some promo of this. But changeling, choose a creature type. Helps you play those creature types. Not too bad. Kaya's back. Really digging just the artwork here. Big fan of this. And then we're going to have to talk more at some other point about these commanders that flip. If you have any questions on how these work, I think I have it down, but I'm not entirely sure. But basically from the command zone, you can play it as the equipment or the creature. But if you cast, let's say, the equipment, and then you go to cast the creature, you do have to pay the tax. Like each time you cast the card, regardless of size, you have to pay the tax on it. And then if your commander is the artifact, it doing damage as the equipped piece doesn't add to commander damage. But if you somehow animate it to be the creature doing the damage, then it counts as commander damage. There's other questions. There's all kinds of crazy scenarios people are already coming up with, because you know us Magic players, we love to think about any and all scenarios. But I'm actually legit excited, and I'm really digging these alternate art styles. I think they look awesome. Big fan. I hope the foil versions of them live up to the hype that I have in my head for how awesome they look, but honestly, really impressed. Then we get Sarulf, Realm Eater. There's a wolf in Norse mythology. I can't remember what its big thing was, but very cool to see it represented here. Basically, it's like a black-green board wipe, which isn't super uncommon, but this is a card that I feel like when you're playing a game of Commander with it, everyone's just going to be waiting to either say, I have to have removal for that before I can add to the board, or maybe you can play it and catch people off guard. Yeah, it's just going to be a fun card. Again, art looks sweet. Very interesting piece. But you also don't want to add to your board because it removes each other non-land permanent. Not just your opponents, everyone. It wants to be the last one standing. No big deal. And then the reason for making this video that got me like, hey, I just have to jump in on the spoilers. Toski, Bearer of Secrets. I, for one, I love tribal decks. I love token decks. Therefore, I love squirrel tribal decks. And definitely, now that we finally have a legendary squirrel creature, like we've had druids, we've had tribal leaders, but they're not often squirrel tribal leaders. They're like humans or druids or whatever. Now we finally get a legendary squirrel creature. I'm assuming we'll get some good squirrel card reprints. I'm assuming we'll get some brand new fantastic squirrel cards. There will be plenty of squirrel commander decks being built after this set. I'm more than confident in that, because I'll be one of them. But yeah, that's really it that we've seen those so far. Probably won't touch on these on the set again though until the spoilers really get going in January. And then I'm thinking about doing, let me know in the comments, but I'm thinking of doing a intro to Kaldheim, as opposed to trying to cram in everything to a draft guide or a pre-release guide. Just having there be like an intro to the set video where it talks about the mechanics, the lore behind it, the inspiration for the set, and then the draft guide and the pre-release guide and or pre-release guide can just be crammed and focused solely on the gameplay versus trying to cover all things in the same video. So yeah, let me know if that sounds interesting to you. Appreciate you watching. Again, Merry Christmas Eve, Merry Christmas to you, whatever holiday you're celebrating, wherever you're at in the world. Thank you for watching. I hope you're having a great week. I hope you have a great weekend. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy, my friends. Peace.